Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the professional podcast. As you can see, this is a special episode because we have my good friend and former IWH guest, hopefully again soon, my man Dave. How we doing, Dave?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Obviously, Roz is here too. As he is, I have dragged him from his grave to do this episode.
I didn't know I died.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not on the outside.
We all die. We're all dead on the inside. Everyone listening to this is most likely a little bit dead on the inside. Let's be honest.
Why are we still here?
just to suffer. So to start this episode, I wanted to Dave to give a little background on himself. So Dave, what should the good people listening to this episode, know about you?
Well, I'm a marketing person by trade. That's what I do for a living. I have my own business called Large Media. I run it with my wife. I also am a basketball coach. I used to be a high school coach in New York before moving to Puerto Rico. Now I just train athletes locally. So that's kind of my background. I did move from Michigan to New Jersey to the Catskills to now Puerto Rico. I've been here for over a year and I love it. But that's about everything you need to know.
Do you think Puerto Rico is better than living in any of the states you lived at prior?
I live on a tropical island, right? So it's kind of hard to beat that.
Yeah.
I was just back in Michigan, and you kind of, the convenience part of what goes on in the States and like the professionalism as far as like getting stuff quickly is nice. Here on the island, it's a little different. You gotta know somebody, it's word of mouth, all that kind of stuff. So things take a little longer to get done. But otherwise, it's like, I don't like leaving the island.
I don't blame you. That's probably a pain in the ass.
No, it's all airports. There's Aguadilla not far. Mayaguez has a little airport that takes you to San Juan. You can get to Florida pretty, within a couple hours, and then go for wherever from there. But it's not hard to leave. It's just I don't like to leave. I love the climate.
Is getting in to like the mainland hard, or are they kind of easy about that?
No, there's no passport required. There's no just
there might
show
be
your driver's
soon.
license.
Yeah, soon though.
No, the real ID thing is like next year, I think. But yeah, otherwise it's easy to travel around.
Yeah, because it's still the States technically, so you don't need a passport or anything to go back to the big 50. But like you said, you're from Detroit, Michigan.
That's right. Don't play with me like that.
Yeah, I love that pin tweet. It's the best. So you told me before. I don't know. Maybe you were messing with me, but I wanted to ask. You played basketball growing up, like you said. You were a coach, and you still train athletes.
Yep.
You told me before that you played against some members of the Fab Five when you were in high school.
Yeah, so I got to play when I was in my junior year. We went up against Jalen Rose, and he went to Detroit Southwestern, and Vashawn Leonard were both on the same team in high school, which was ridiculous.
You probably didn't win that game.
We did not win that game. I was a bench warmer my junior year, so it wasn't. I got to play garbage time basically. Or when our center got in foul trouble, I got to go in. My claim to fame for that game was I got to block Vashawn Leonard. So he came in, he drove the lane, and I left my man to step up, and I don't think he figured I'd get there in time or what, but I got a block on him at about the free throw line, and then I got to play in a summer tournament. We ended up playing in the finals against Chris Webber and Detroit Country Day. And that was a team that had like 5 D1 guys, and then obviously a guy going to the NBA on that team too. So they were stacked.
Man, so you've played against 3 of the Fab Five.
Did Chris Leonard call a timeout at the end of the game that they didn't have?
Leonard actually went to Minnesota, but the Weber, he didn't play. Like in the summer game, they had so many good players that he would sit the bench, and then they'd bring him in if the game was close, and he'd put up 20 real quick, and then just leave the game. And it was like he'd have headphones on the entire. Yeah, he'd have headphones on at the end of the bench. Yeah, he was a man child.
He was like he's always big.
He was. Yeah, his hands. There was a point where I switched off and on him depending on if they were screening 4s and 5s. But there was one where it was a defensive rebound, and I boxed him out, and I released to go get the board, and I jumped up so high, my hands were like even with the rim, I could see the bottom of that padding where it was like the middle of my forearm. I'm like, damn, I got up super high, man. And this giant black hand just goes woof and snatches the ball from behind me. I'm like, what the fuck? And he dunked it. I jumped out of the way. He dunked it. He had called for over the back, so fortunately it didn't count. But yeah, he was an incredible athlete.
He's a crazy athlete. I mean, that's crazy that you went against literally like 3 of the Fab Five as a teenager. And they were teenagers too, but obviously that's just different because did all those guys play in the NBA? Jalen Rose and Weber did.
Sean Leonard was a member of the Heat. I think he might have been a Bucket one time too.
So they all played in the NBA. All 3 of those guys you played against.
I got to play against Derek Lowe too, who obviously went MLB instead.
Mm-hmm.
But different tournament. But we got to play against him, and he was
Michigan.
He was a point guard at like whatever 6'8", 6'6", whatever the hell he was, and he could dunk, shoot the 3. Like he was an incredible basketball player too.
I feel, man, Michigan's produced a lot of athletes back in the day, man.
Yeah, as Detroit kind of declined in population, that kind of tapered off, and now it's people actually the housing market in Detroit is hot again right now. So we'll see what happens if that produces anything down the road. But yeah, it was an epicenter. You got Flint, Detroit, Saginaw, all those different areas. Produce some good athletes.
When you hear Flint, though, you obviously think of the tough
we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks.
It does. It's still not resolved, to my knowledge.
Yeah, after all this time.
Yeah.
Well, and it's fucked up. I was watching the news, and they said now more and more communities are testing their water, and they're turning up with lead too. It's not just Flint. You're talking about white suburbs having the lead. It's crazy.
Wow. That's awful.
Is that was Nestle's fault? Was that the company?
I don't think it was. No, that was just old pipes.
Yeah,
there was old pipes.
There was they rerouted the drinking water for Flint though. They used to have a deal with Detroit, and they rerouted it from somewhere else, and clearly that was not the right idea.
That was not a good move. No.
Yeah. You might want to look into that first before you sign that contract.
It's just it's bad, but
no. Well, I think one of the things you and I talked about too. We keep talking hoops if you want, but was about social media because that's one of the things that I've done for a while as a living.
Yes, you market and you have used social media. See, it's interesting because you're not our age. You're not from our generation. So it's interesting to see someone like you who knows social media like as well as you do. Because most of the time, like people your age don't really know it that well. Like they can get around it and use it simply, but they can't like. They're gonna get called a boomer.
I sat at my parents' house with 2 other neighbors who are pretty close to my age, within 5 or 6 years. One is a circuit court judge now, and we were sitting there talking and just having drinks and stuff, and we talked about Facebook, and I told him, I said, you should get off Facebook as soon as possible. Like you should literally not be using it because you don't understand what's real and what's not, and what's true and what's false. And I said, and they don't care. Like Facebook isn't out there fact checking stuff, and they've been busted so many times. All they care about is revenue. That's all they care about. And I said, I said, you're better off just deleting your account and not being on there because you're going to be filled, especially being in Michigan because it's like a battleground state, right? Like Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So they get served up ads and stuff that are just blatantly false, and Facebook doesn't give a shit. They don't care if they're misleading people.
Yeah, Zuckerberg. Did you? I'm assuming you saw that clip with AOC like questioning Zuckerberg, and he just straight up admitted like they don't really like. As long as they're getting paid, they'll run an ad whether it's true or false, and that's dangerous.
Well, and they'll give access to whoever the highest bidder is. So there's access to their API and to data that violates their terms of service, but companies like Cambridge Analytica were harvesting that data and then matching it up with voter rolls. There's a whole world of that's just sleazy as shit. I mean, it blows my mind that a company, especially one based in the States, it's
even allowed to do that.
Well, but when you watch the people questioning Facebook executives, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't understand any of it. They're still trying to figure out how to email on their phone. You know what I mean? And and they're going to regulate a company. They don't understand how it works, let alone all the shady shit they're doing. So it's not, I told them, I said, disinformation is the number one thing that you have to worry about in the next election cycle because there's so much of it out there.
Yeah.
You know?
This election is going to be crazy. Like, it's going to be even worse than 2016's was. And
I don't know about that.
No, it is. I promise you. It's going to be that bad.
2016 was a clown fiesta. I mean, this is also going to be a clown fiesta.
So is this. That's all politics is now. It's just a massive... it's just noise at this point. It's just a lot of noise being thrown at you from both sides, and that's why, really, I believe Trump got elected the first time is because he just made the most noise.
Right. He dominated free media. So if you took all the minutes he got on TV where his name was mentioned, and again, if you're a believer that all publicity is good publicity, right? Mm-hmm. Which is what he thinks. Then he dominated. And back in the day, there used to be a law that said if you were political, you had to give equal time to both sides of an argument for politics. Now they don't do that anymore because of the cable news channels and all that. So that was back when you just had like NBC, ABC, and CBS. But
I mean, it's honestly scary with this next election because I don't know, man. It's really interesting to see what's going to happen, and I do be kind of nervous about it because
I feel like people that I posted this on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn drives me crazy because I post things on there that I'm not using LinkedIn to promote my company, at least not my marketing company. I use it as a platform to talk to other professionals, right, and say like, this is how I feel about something. And most people don't use it for that. They use it just to like gloss over their work bullshit. And it's boring. No one cares about your trade show. Sorry. No one cares.
LinkedIn, I'm surprised people even use it.
It's pretty, it's like, well, it used to just be like, if you're looking for a job, you'd use it. And now it's gotten to the point where it's just all self-promotional stuff and it's not, but I try to use it to spread truth and knowledge. And I talk to people about being an entrepreneur. If they're trying to start a business, if you have any questions, come talk to me. I try to tell truths about what happens. You can start a business and you go into it with good intentions. And, there are some shady fuckers out there, which is why someone like Trump is just so abhorrent to me. Because he is like the ultimate scumbag. He'll hire you for a job, make you finish the job and not pay you for all the job. And then it's like, well, for you to sue me, it would cost you more than it would for you to just eat the cost of this. So go fuck yourself. That's how he treats it, And that to me that's not ethical. And I made a name for myself in marketing by being ethical. And so when I see people not being ethical, it drives me up a wall. But I post stuff like I said all the time on there. And I said, if you work in marketing and theoretically you're supposed to know social media and know these companies and how they work and their background and what's going on in the news and stuff, you have a responsibility to tell people who don't what's going on. I mean, it's just, you do.
Yeah. And I feel like because that is 100% the truth. And then you see Facebook, which is this $1 billion company, putting out ads that are just false, allowing that to happen.
Elizabeth Warren ran an ad that was explicitly false on purpose, and Facebook let it through. They don't care.
Yeah, they really don't care.
Their stance is that we want people to be able to see everything that a candidate says and puts out there, whether it's advertising or not.
But it is advertising, even if it's false.
But here's the thing: if you ran an ad on TV that says, fruit causes cancer, that shit would get pulled down in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you ran an ad that says cigarettes are good for you, that ad would get pulled down it wouldn't even allow it.
There'd be so many companies that would attack you for that ad.
But the networks, the TV networks and the ad companies, whatever, have their own policies and say this is not factual. We're not going to allow it. And Facebook's like, fuck it, wild, wild west. Do what you want. That to me is wrong.
They just take the money. I mean, that's really all it is. I mean, they just they look at how much they're being paid and what the ad says. And most of the time, it doesn't really matter what the ad says as long as they're getting enough money.
The biggest and shittiest companies in the world do that all the time. And then they turn around and say, okay, we'll pay that slap on the wrist fine. I think you and I first started talking about this. Facebook paid some fine of like $80 million or something like that because they said that they were overinflating video views in the newsfeed. And so as someone who worked in the space, we were being pitched and told and being shown this. So numbers on Facebook showed videos were getting way more play on the timeline. So everybody, including news organizations, started laying off journalists and laying off writers and content producers to make videos. And Facebook just settled this lawsuit from the government for like $80 million, which is nothing to them.
Yeah, not really.
And they claimed that as part of the settlement, they admitted that they inflated those numbers by 15x, which seems pretty high. And then you realize, okay, after the lawsuit was settled, they admitted they'd inflated them by up to 150x.
Jesus.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's unethical as hell. But they made billions in that quarter. What's 80 million? Who gives a shit? We got our billions. You know what I mean?
I guess that's all they care about at the end of the day.
That's all they care about.
Yeah,
so
they just care about the numbers and the money. That's really it.
If that's all they care about, then I can't, in good conscience, tell my clients we should be really making Facebook a priority.
That not ethically, no, definitely not.
But anyway,
I mean, that's like, it's kind of like, because I see the dilemma for someone like you. That's like, well, we could use Facebook, which is unethical, but it'd probably make money, or we could do it the ethical way and see what happens. And
well, what's nice right now is that, not that Google's like tremendously better, like they're not, as far as we know, they're not actively working with foreign governments to, do
it doesn't seem like it, no.
But Google is, from an advertising standpoint, is turning out to be a really good bargain, and it's performing just from an ad standpoint alone. So it's not all, there are alternatives to that, but it's everyone just defaults to Facebook because they have the most users.
Yeah.
But it's just, like I said, it pisses me off because I took a former client to court because they didn't want to pay us. And when the client presented some of the ad data and the users that were signing up for their app and their website, some of these users were fake. Now, I don't control that. That's on Facebook.
So I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up to me when we were just kind of talking in the DMs, and you brought up to me how big of an issue botting is on social media sites.
Oh, it's insane.
You gave me a crazy figure that I wanted you to repeat because I wanted people to hear this and hear this figure about, and you used I think it was Trump's followers.
Yeah. So there's I don't know if you guys ever watched. There's a show that they started their season finale on Sunday night, the series finale called Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. And I watched that show. My wife and I watched that show because, number one, they do a ton of research so that it feels real. But
it's also hilarious.
Yeah, it's a funny show too. But a lot of that in the 2015, 2016 kind of Internet of Things hardware boom, we went through a lot of that with our clients as far as the shit they were going through. So it was almost like therapy for us to watch it because we're like, yep, this is kind of stuff that people do. But the thing on the show, if you followed it, they basically launch an app and it's not getting any downloads, and then all of a sudden there's this spike, and it gets traced back that the COO of the company bought app downloads, which you can do online. Anybody can do this, right? So the show ended with the CEO confronting the COO about it, and then it flashes over to some place that looks like Pakistan or India, and a guy waking up in the morning, showering, brushing his teeth, and going to work on his bike. And then he walks into the building, says hello to some coworkers, and they really stay on him for the entire shot. And he sits down at his computer, and they back away from him, and it's like thousands of people sitting in a room in front of computers, all manipulating reviews and downloading apps and all that kind of stuff.
That's incredible.
And they've done this, like CBS and all these different, they've done documentaries and it's true. It happens. It happens in China. It happens everywhere, where they literally just program algorithms to manipulate an iPhone or an Android device to give someone higher ratings, higher downloads, higher whatever you want. The same thing happens in social media, where there are not just automated software running on these platforms, which could be cut off, but Twitter, for example, chooses not to do it. Their API they could cut off access anytime they wanted to. They just choose not to. And then there are actual people. So in particular, St. Petersburg, Russia, is where a giant disinformation firm lives, and they literally go around looking at hot topics and issues that divide people and send, real, well, quote unquote people using these fake accounts to go and stir the shit, stir the pot, whatever, create shit. And and that happens. That's like a legit thing. And you can tell because I think it was because I retweeted Bot Sentinel.
Yeah.
And it's a company that made a platform to essentially, track and see where is this coming from, and is it a real person or is it a bot or what have you. But it's very prevalent on Twitter, and they do nothing about it because, again, going back to the early days of social. Yeah, going back to the early days of social, remember they used to put out reports on TechCrunch and Mashable and all those sites. Oh, we hit 1 million followers or 1 million users. Oh, we're up to 10 million, 50 million, 100 million. Well, who verified that number? Nobody. It's all made up.
So Bot Sentinel, that's not like any like Twitter owned or run kind of thing. That's just it's independent.
Yeah, it's some people that basically said this is ridiculous. I hope that, in an ideal world, Twitter would buy them, but that would hurt Twitter's business model. Say we lost users. We lost users, and certain topics are being suppressed, quote unquote, because the bots aren't, doing the thing.
Is that the best way to go about stopping the issue? Is for the bigger companies to buy these companies to like kind of thwart the amount of, the presence of bots and whatnot?
If they cared about thwarting it, that's the problem. So if I'm Facebook and I allow a bunch of fake profiles and they comment on your business's stuff as a business owner, you're like, this is awesome. People like my business. At the end of the day, no one else is walking through that front door though. So or buying stuff off your website. So it's like it's a falsehood. And so these platforms themselves are never going to regulate themselves. And I don't know. Zuckerberg testified a couple of years ago. He said we probably should be regulated, and
he hated them.
I stared at him like, well, we wouldn't even know where to start with that. It's like, you're right. So it's I don't think the platform is ever going to solve it. I think it's got to be a people-driven thing.
So you gave me figures though, like on like the percentages of how many accounts on Twitter are bots and real or dead.
So I just downloaded. Bot Sentinel put out a bunch of CSV files you can download and then upload them to Twitter as part of your block list. Mm-hmm. They've identified 112,000 malicious bots of people who are out there, trying to cause disinformation on their platform alone.
There's different kinds of bots then, because you said those are malicious.
Those are the actual people sitting behind computers.
Okay, so those are fake accounts.
When you talk about scale of this operation, what's going on, and this is, like I said, disinformation is the biggest thing that we're going to have to, not just on social, but even just on the internet in general. How many websites do you visit? This is why viruses and malware exist, because people create fake websites that look like one that looks familiar, and then people click download whatever it is. They don't scan it, and next thing you know, they got a virus. So it's, it's a big issue. I used to love the internet, and now I can't stand it. I just can't. I like living where I live because we do use the internet and stuff to find things, but not everything's online. So you have to physically go somewhere and talk to somebody, which isn't a bad thing.
Like you gave me you just said 100. You said 112,000 malicious bots.
Those are people who are actively engaging in stuff.
So that's 112,000 bots.
Look at those are the ones who are active.
Yeah, those are
right.
Those are just people that are on a fake burner.
Right.
And that's 112,000.
And there are more accounts than that out there. So there are people, when social media became a thing, and you look at who funded Twitter's existence, who funded Facebook's existence, who were some of their Series A, Series B backers before they were public, who owns their stock. It's places like Saudi Arabia. It's places like Russia. It's places where they thrive because of creating chaos. They need that chaos in order to, like what's happening right now in the Ukraine. What's happening, they need that. So they started creating accounts. If you look at some of these bots, it says joined May of 2012. This wasn't like yesterday. they created a shitload of fake accounts so they could sleep on them.
So so this has been like a planned. You think this bot infestation on the internet and all these social media sites was a planned thing by some countries?
Yeah,
which I could see. I think that's completely reasonable.
And it wouldn't surprise me to learn that the U.S. does it too, to be honest. Like, not in the U.S., but to other countries. We definitely, back in the day, you drop pamphlets and shit. You know what I mean? Now, I'll just spam your phone with shit.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
We do it too, but it doesn't make it right.
No, I mean, it doesn't, obviously. It's not right to do this in the slightest. I think, I don't know why this was, I mean, this seems like you said, this has been a plan in the works, and they've been waiting for the right moment for years now to do this kind of thing. And I think the whole Trump election was kind of the perfect thing to do this off. I mean, it was just a chaotic time in a superpower. So, why not attack these, fragile people with fake ads and fake media and all this other stuff that they're doing.
And what's crazy about it, they're scraping data left and right, and they're looking to match this up. So I don't know if you know this or not. You live in New York, so you can go to your local clerk, the city clerk or whatever, and you could say, I want all the voter data. Now, they're not going to tell you, who someone voted for. You had 5 Republicans on the ballot. You won't know which Republican they voted for in the primary, but you'll know they voted, and you'll know they voted in the Republican primary. Mm-hmm. So that data's out there, and there are apps and there are platforms out there where you can tap and you can segment that to say, I'm only going to go after Republicans, knowing that they, if I know I have more Republicans in a town or Democrats in a town, I can then run on those issues, knowing I'm going to get those votes. And it's very much about data manipulation. That's all. But that's out there. Like, you can't stop it. So anybody can get that data from these companies or by going to the towns themselves and asking for it.
So you mean anybody's like, I don't have to live in that area.
No,
I could just go get.
You can do
information.
You can write a letter citing the Freedom of Information Act, and they have to turn it over to you.
Jeez, and that's probably where they get the figures then. They
want to match it up. Well, and there are companies out there. Speaking of marketing, there are companies out there. One's called El Toro, where if you visit my website and you don't buy something, I can send you a postcard. So I know your home address based on your IP address now too. So if I can trick you on Facebook, baby boomer, into clicking if you hate Hillary, click this link. If I can get you to drop on that site, I can now start selling that data and that information to the political parties.
Right.
So it's pretty dirty. It's really dirty.
It's honestly horrifying.
That's scary.
And then think about how little your parents know, right?
At all times.
It's just think about how little people know about issues and about candidates and about how they're being manipulated to. I talked to someone about where they stand politically, and they were like, well, I'm independent, but I'm really conservative. And I was like, well, about what? And they brought up some dumb topic. And I said, I'll tell you what it is. If you took the money out of politics and you taxed corporations and you taxed billionaires at rates that are, when America was actually great, where money went into infrastructure and schools and roads and all that shit, none of this stuff would be an issue. But because everyone's scraping and clawing for every dime they can get, now we're all picking fights with everybody trying to figure out, you know what I'm saying? That's what it comes down to.
So when we were talking about this the other day, you gave me some percentages about Twitter itself. I know we've been kind of more on the Facebook, attacking Facebook, but you told me that half of Twitter's accounts are dormant, 20% are bots, and 30% are actual real people.
Yep.
So there's almost as many real bots as people, based on this information you said on Twitter.
A lot of people create accounts on Twitter, and then they after like a few days of using it, say, I don't get it, and they leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's like a big chunk of people, or they just got so turned off by the last election and the arguing and stuff that they just said, this is not worth it. Like, I don't like being triggered all the time or seeing people argue all the time. So they left. Mm-hmm. But even as someone who, like I said, I've been involved with Twitter for, I think 12 years or maybe more now. And like, I had colleagues, because I was an early adopter. I used to use all the social media platforms when they came out. And then after a while, you're kind of like, yeah, I get what it does. How can I target the users of it? And that's all I care about.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of colleagues when I worked in New York City that were like, yeah, we joined and this thing's stupid, or I don't get it, or whatever. And they quit. Or I get it, I don't need to be using it. And they quit. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot. And if you try to, as someone who works with companies, you try to get a Twitter handle because you create a name for a company or they create a new brand or whatever. And it's just sitting there. No one's used it since 2011 or 2015. Yeah. And you try to get the name, and Twitter won't. They used to turn them over. You could submit you could submit a link to your copyright or trademark and proof that you were part of that company, and they would give it to you. And they stopped doing that because that meant less users.
I mean, I've seen this before, actually. I've run into this with creating these show Twitters that, like, just like some ads are just like it's a 3-letter ad or just like a nice clean like name, and it's taken by some account that hasn't tweeted since 2009.
Yep.
And it's like, well, that's annoying. And they don't, like you said, they don't give it up. Like they won't give it up for some random guy like myself or anyone else. They'll like, I think the big companies could be like, hey, we want this ad, and Twitter will oblige and give it.
As long as it's attached, if it's attached to a large ad spend, they'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then you're fucked. And it was around the time of the verified program ending that they stopped all that stuff.
Yeah. I think Twitter used to be much more user-friendly when it was starting out, and now it's kind of becoming like this big mess of things. It certainly has lately. There's two things that are funny about it to me. One is that from an advertising standpoint, it sucks. Their targeting sucks. The results usually suck. There are some niches that do okay, but for the most part, if you're trying to sell Chevys or you're trying to sell something on your website or whatever, it usually sucks. It usually is one of the worst performing mediums for that. So there's that piece of it. The other piece of it that was scary to me, but I get it, is they said a lot of journalists are using it to get their information and news, and that's where they rely on mostly to find sources and things like that. That's scary to me. Yeah, because Twitter, most of the time, like, you got so much fake, like all these, like you said, bot accounts. So 20% of Twitter accounts are bots, you said.
Yeah. Well, and if they're able to create volume, so if you're lazy and you look just at the trending topics and start clicking through that, then you're going to go to your producer, or if you're the producer, you go back to management and say, hey, this is a trending topic. We should talk about it on today's news. Now you're bringing fake shit to mainstream media, TV, radio, etc.
That's probably the scariest thing with social media these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's bad enough. Like, you could always, like, I'm old, so like I used to program bulletin boards for like people back in the 80s. Like, that's how old I am. So like,
jeez.
Yeah. So that was like dial up and like to someone's actual computer, and you could go on and do some stuff and hang up, and then somebody else will dial in. And so back then it was like very accountable. And then when message boards and the internet kind of took off, that kind of became a thing where you'd be like, hey, I'm into Corvettes, or I'm into Max, or I'm into a sports team or whatever. And you join that message board and you talk to people, and hopefully they're real people and all that. Mm-hmm. And even back then, I remember Yahoo News used to allow you to comment on the news. And these were mostly, like, I knew people in real life. One guy I actually worked with, whose job it was to monitor the internet for a Fortune 500 company. And he worked at the same company I did. And we were talking one day, and I made an offhanded comment about Cindy Bin, which if you Google that, you'll see it's like some old Yahoo News commenting lore about this fake user called Cindy. And I I made a comment about Cindy being in a meeting, and afterwards he's like, "Wait, you're on this too?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know what's going on." And he's like, "I was like, what's your name?" He told me his name. I'm like, holy shit! I've actually responded to you on Yahoo News, as far as like trolling people and stuff and having fun. But they shut it down after a while because it was always the same thing there, and there's just a bunch of internet trolls. Not, they were doing it for fun, not like to sway political discussion or whatever. But it's been a thing for a while. But to weaponize it for politics to me it's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
But if I was Twitter, and this is the part that people would say they'll fight against this because they want their anonymity. But if you really wanted to clean up Twitter, you'd verify people in real. You verify people the way they did. You have that program run on a massive scale, and now you're accountable for what you say and do, as opposed to allowing bots. But again, they need growth numbers, so they're never going to do it.
So we talked about overall Twitter being almost 20% bots, and half accounts are dead. You gave me another statistic that I thought was crazy involving Trump's Twitter, which is, Trump's Twitter has caused just a massive trouble for social media. And I can't remember a time, because most of the time when I watch the news now, like national news, there's at least one segment about, oh, Trump tweeted this. There has never been a time where that has been the case. I never heard this with Obama. I'd never heard anything about, oh, Obama said this on Twitter. That has never happened before.
Well,
so it's new.
But what it's done, though, is, especially when you're the president, is that Trump's biggest strength, and I would, strength is a
term that's
relative word. It's a relative word. But his biggest strength is the ability to dominate the news cycle, like we talked about earlier. And Twitter, if journalists are falling for it, which they still do, and news networks are falling for it, which hopefully they'll get smarter about it, but all he has to do is say some crazy shit, and the last crazy thing he said or corrupt thing he did or criminal thing he did just goes away because everyone's focused on the new thing. It's a constant shell game.
Do you think that's like a conscious decision he's making?
Yes.
Or do you think that's just it? Oh, really?
Yes.
That is I totally 100% believe that is a PR move.
So it's like a sleight of hand trick. It's like, look here while I do this over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's all it is. So there are things like stock manipulation that no one talks about, like when he comments on certain companies like Amazon or whatever. Yeah. You don't think people are out there shorting Amazon or shorting or what have you. It's happening. So none of it's being looked into because he's now decimating the federal government. He's closing departments. He's deregulating everything. And it's a libertarian's wet dream. I don't know if you saw the air pollution's up now. It's up 10%. Yeah. It's up 10%. Why?
I passed by this building that had smoke coming out of it earlier this morning, and I was like, air pollution. I swear to God this happened this morning. There was smoke coming out of it. It's actually very ironic we're talking about this right now because I was like, air pollution. Now you actually say that. Yeah. And I'm like,
LA used to be a city you couldn't see.
Yeah.
Because there's so much pollution. That's what he wants. That to me, that's what he thinks is making it great. But all it is putting money back into, people who. When I was in business school, you learn about different factors and threats to your business, right? So your competition's one, right? If your competition launches a better product, lowers the price, whatever. That's one thing. Another thing used to be the government. The government used to be a threat, and that also provides opportunity because the government does a lot of research and things that they sell patents to and all that, it's as far as to companies. But it used to be if the government said we're going to raise emissions on cars, then that presented opportunity for entrepreneurs to then come up with a solution to that regulation or for engineers or what have you. Yeah. And what Trump is doing is saying government shouldn't be a factor in anything, which is just crazy to me. So anyway, but back to your point. So Trump has 61% of his followers. Yeah, Trump has there are websites out there, and I wrote a blog post on this years ago. I sent it to you, Bryce, where you could go out there and buy followers for Twitter, Instagram, whatever.
So, yes.
And I did it as a test. I did it as a test for my company's Twitter handle to see how does this impact things, what have you. And what it is just it's a bunch of fake accounts. Just they don't talk back to you. They just exist. That's all they do.
Right.
So Trump has 61% of his accounts are fake, meaning they don't even really exist.
So you think based on not you think, but based on information you've gotten at your sources, 61% of his 66.3 million followers are fake.
Completely fake. Not real people. Will never talk back to you. Accounts that were created for the specific purpose of being following someone because they got paid to follow them.
So, I mean, that is a mass. I don't know if people could really understand that. That's over 30 million fake followers. If that's a 100% factual number, which I could see it, that is over that is on a scale that I don't think has ever been. I don't think it's rivaled by any other account or anything. I mean, that is 61% of 66 million is fake.
There was a purge, and I'm blanking on what year it was, but Facebook announced a purge of fake accounts because it was happening to Facebook too, of just legitimate fake accounts, not trolls, but fake accounts, right? And Facebook announced this purge. Well, I had a company that I worked with, and I left. I changed jobs basically 3 times in the course of 2 years, or 2 times in 3 years, whatever it was. But I basically was watching their Facebook page grow and grow and grow. And I'm like, that's crazy. Because when I look at the number, if I look at the number of accounts and I look at what they're posting, the engagement is actually getting worse. Right. And the algorithm works where you post something and then it needs to be engaged with by a small number of users. And if it starts to be engaged by that small number of users, then Facebook's algorithm says this must be good content, so spread it out there to more users, right? So it has this network effect. So if you buy a bunch of fake users, and that's who sees it first or what have you, then nobody responds to it, which means your content is basically dead in the water, right? So that's the downside to do it. I actually went to that company after that purge and said, you guys had 750,000 likes on Facebook. You're down to 300,000.
You actually told me this too when we were talking about this.
Yeah, I said one of your agencies over the past 2 years, for whatever reason, bought fake likes. You may want to demand money. That's fraud.
Yeah, that's fraudulent. Yes.
So
100%.
And that happens, and it happens, right? So Trump, in this case, personally, his election committee, whoever, paid for that 61% of fake. They paid for it. They don't just apply themselves to your accounts. Mysteriously.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say
not on that scale.
What I will say is you can anonymously buy fake followers for somebody else. So if I want to tank your Twitter account, or tank your company, or tank your reach, really, that's what it really comes down to. I could turn around and buy 10,000 fake likes, and now all of a sudden your content's seen by nobody. Now you're forced to buy ads.
Yeah.
So it's a dirty. It can be a dirty business if you're not ethical, and there are a lot of people that choose to be dirty, which is sad.
So you think? So where do you think that number of fake accounts and bots came from for the Trump account specifically? Do you think that was purchased by allies? Do you think it was?
Yeah, it was definitely. He's too stupid to care anything other than what the number is. So he doesn't he doesn't. He's not looking for, and this again goes back to look at his tweets and look at the engagement on his tweets. And it's already been proven that a lot of that is fake. The engagement, a lot of the engagement of the likes and the retweets of his tweets are these St. Petersburg based or wherever based bots. So it's not as if, he can buy all the fake numbers he wants, but when you tweet something and you only get 20,000 likes on it, well, 66 million and 20,000 are way different numbers. And it's a very low engagement rate, which is how you know they're all fake.
Right. That's a crazy thing to think about. That's a huge scale of fake followers. 60 million, and then like you said, the engagement rate kind of gives it away, because if he tweets something and it just kind of gets 20,000 likes,
That's always been a thought, is that when people on Instagram or Pinterest or whatever, there are influencers who have representation. Some are just representing themselves and they're really aggressive. They'll reach out to you like, "Hey, I'm a fan of whatever brand. I'd love to do a campaign with you."
Mm-hmm.
And then they give you their price, and you look at the price and you look at their numbers and then you look at the engagement, and you're like, it says 1 million followers, but you got 100 likes on this. So what gives?
Yeah.
And I want to know if you're going to charge me for 1 million followers, they better be real. Because if that's not, then I'll just go to an ad platform. I could pay for 1 million Google searches of people who are actually looking for my product and sell it that way instead. It's more effective.
That's definitely more effective.
Yeah. So there's fraud in all this stuff, which is the part to me that's just, it's very maddening to work in the space, quite frankly, because, and then having worked in the space, having seen what's happening with politics, having seen the media fall for this bullshit, you're like, have you not learned a thing? Has no one talked to you about this? Or,
Yeah, I think it's certainly crazy because we're in the kind of era that you really don't know what to look for and who to trust anymore. You have to be extremely careful because if you're not, you will get sucked into this.
And the downside to the internet is that people use it not to educate themselves sometimes, but to confirm beliefs they already have.
Yep, confirmation bias makes this dangerous.
And it could be something racist. It could be sexist. It could be political. It could be whatever it is. Instead of taking the time to do, critical thinking to me is one of the biggest skills. The biggest skills people need to be taught and have, because does this make sense to you? If you think about it in the context of things, does this make sense? Yeah. A lot of people don't even put that filter or lens on.
They just don't even do that anymore because they can just look. They could just look that up and they could see this potentially very fake article or something that is just that confirms their belief, and that's what they want.
The funniest one to me, or one of the first ones that everyone, especially on Facebook, you share an article by The Onion, right, which everybody knows is satire. Mm-hmm. Not boomers.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're there to argue. They're there to argue. I'm like, dude, it's fake. Like, oh my God, this is supposed to be a joke.
I love The Onion personally. I think they're hilarious. And you have to know their satire because, I mean, if you're going to get in a serious debate and you bring up an Onion article, you may as well leave because,
right.
I mean,
you might as well just delete. You might as well throw away everything in your house that connects to the internet.
Yeah, may as well. I mean, I don't want to discredit The Onion because I think they're hilarious. They are funny. But you had an idea that was really interesting. I don't know if it's an idea or something in action that you know about called the Political Social Media Ethics Association.
Well, when you were talking about it, and I said it'd be nice to see, a group or some kind. I was part of the Word of Mouth Marketing Association years ago, and I used to sit on their board of directors. And before I was on the board of directors, I was just a member, but I was an active member, and I'd sit on different committees and what have you. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I did was when bloggers first became a thing, I was very active in that space, working with them and, having brands work with them and sponsor them and all that. And I'm very, like I said, I'm all about the ethics. So I wanted brands to understand and for bloggers to understand what's the way that you should work together in a way that's consumer friendly, ethically, and transparent, so people know this is a sponsorship. It's not like, I love, Clorox, and Clorox has slipped me $1,000 to say that, right?
Yeah.
Now, the ridiculous part of all this is that bloggers and then eventually other social media people were being held to a different standard than traditional celebrities, which to me is crazy. So we would, when I worked in the city, we would hire celebrities and they'd go on TV and talk about a product, and they never had to say, I'm getting paid by this product to talk about it. They never had to say that. But if you're a blogger and write an article about it, you have to say explicitly, this is an advertisement or I was compensated in some way, right? That's a double standard in my opinion, and it should be that they all have to do it.
Well, that's the thing, because when you're writing about a product or writing a product review, that is a totally different media than a commercial. You know what I mean? Like, because that's
Well, no, I'm talking about like when an actor or actress goes on a talk show, on a late night show,
Oh, okay.
and they'd be like, "Yeah, I was over here with my Cadillac," and then it's like, "Wait, did you get paid by Cadillac?" Oh, yeah, they did, but they just didn't say that, right? So
Right.
that kind of stuff. So I wrote the
Okay.
rules. So long story short is I did this for first bloggers and then for like social media, like influencers and what have you. That if you're going to do this stuff, be ethical about it, label it, and then that got submitted to the FTC. And the FTC said, "This is great. I'm glad to see a trade organization is stepping up to do the right thing, so that we don't have to, find it, or seek it out ourselves and enforce it."
Mm-hmm.
And then they created a channel to report people who were, not compliant, and they chase people down. You see it in the news every once in a while, but I think that has to happen for politics. I think that, the
Yeah.
dark money, the advertising. I would love to see candidates, signing on to say my campaign will not run unethical ads or what have you. I think that'd be something that it desperately needs to happen, because they're not, unless their hand is forced to do it. If that becomes a seal of approval of something, but that to me it seems like something that has to happen, because the platforms aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
And, unless unless they maybe get shamed into joining this council.
Yeah,
So,
I love that idea. I think seeing someone like having any, like, I mean, it doesn't have to be Trump. I mean, any political like serious political candidate that's running for a seat or a presidency or anything, them signing on to something that holds them accountable for the ads that are put out about them would be huge. That would be massive.
in light of their getting rid of dark money and the bullshit notion that corporations are people and all that kind of stuff, something has to happen. It's just not people. I don't know. Maybe the whole point of the U.S. is to have the wool pulled over your eyes constantly, and someone else is making money on that, because that's all it seems like.
Yeah.
But it's not. To me, it's not something that I think, given where other industries have been held accountable, politicians sure as shit get a free ride. They don't have to follow anything that brands have to follow, not even close. So if I'm Procter and Gamble and I have a new product, I have to be very transparent about the fact that I'm the advertiser and what it can and can't do. And if I make a false claim, I get a slap on the wrist for it. I have to pull the ad. I get fined and I have to pull the ad. If I'm a pharmaceutical company and I make a false claim, the FDA is not kind to companies that lie about what the drugs can do. So, I don't see how it's any different. Just me personally, I just,
it shouldn't be.
People say, "Oh, it's politics." I grew up in a political family, and if someone read an ad about my father, who was a councilman, that was false, I would certainly hope there was some recourse that could be taken, have it taken down, or what have you. So,
yeah, and I feel like people should, like, if you're gonna run a fake ad about another political rival, that not only should be taken down, you should be punished for that. And I feel like that doesn't happen all the time. It does sometimes. There's some cases where that does happen, but not really typically.
No, I feel like there is no accountability in it, and that's the problem. And so then it becomes easy to say, well, if that one's fake, then they're all fake. Or, do you know what I mean? To have that, to be that cynical about it. So, but you've seen the ads. I mean, they'll have if there's a prosecutor running for judge, and that prosecutor, something happened under their watch when it was a case they weren't even involved in, but they were part of the, staff at that time. They could be like, under her watch, this happened. It's like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's
just, to me, it's filthy. Politics to me there's a reason, my father got out, and there's a reason why I have no interest in being involved in it from that standpoint. Yeah. Because it's so dirty. I'll judge you based on your actions, and I'll judge you based on where things are going with the country or the city or whatever office you're running for. But the advertising to me is just out of hand. It's completely out of hand.
It does get really, really out of hand. Well, that was a pretty dark segment, guys. I gotta say, reality kind of is a dark thing. So, to lighten that up, we are bringing back a Mad Lib segment. We're going to do it with Dave. Because I promise, Dave's funny. I know what we just did was not funny at all, and you're probably shitting yourself. But Dave is a funny guy. I know this because I experienced it firsthand on IWH when he completely blindsided me with a dick joke. Still really fun. I remember.
What better way to lighten the mood?
It was. So Roz and Dave are gonna write some Mad Libs. I'm gonna type them up and make sure they're all nice. So
do you want to alternate this? Like, Dave, you do one, and then I do the next, and you do the next?
That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do two different ones. So Dave, you get first. You get the first one. Do you want to do the advice from Dad, Mad Lib, or do you want to do the awkward first date Mad Lib?
Ooh, well, I've not dated in 21 years, so I'll do that one.
You want to do the awkward date?
Yeah, because I'm a dad, so that'd be too on brand.
All right.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, I haven't dated in 21 years either.
Oh,
You're not 21, Roz.
Well, I haven't dated in 18 years, so...
Like we said way back in the day, self-incrimination is what we do here. That is the main.
All that means is right now there is someone who I'm talking to who has gone longer without dating a girl than I have.
I mean, I take my wife out on dates, but
I mean, Dave's married, Roz.
Yeah, but like, shit. Yeah,
He just
that's
right.
kind of like a very binding thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with. We have to start with a guy's name. I'm gonna put Dave.
Oh, jeez.
School subject. This is all you, Dave. You're writing this.
Botany. Oh, you want college?
It could be any. It doesn't specify.
Let's do botany.
Botany. Okay.
I don't know anything about flowers, by the way. But...
Neville Longbottom sends his regards.
Number. I need a number.
12.
Okay. A verb plus ed, so a verb ending in ed.
Farted.
That's really
I'm
epic.
a child.
This is epic. No, I just need a verb, regular verb.
Run.
Run. Or wouldn't it be? I guess it's not past tense, so run. Yeah.
Oh,
It doesn't say past tense, so run's fine. So verb plus ing. You need an ing verb.
is it a different one?
Yes.
All right. Painting.
Okay, this is gonna be interesting. So same guy's name, so I'm just gonna put Dave again. Adjective. Need an adjective.
Pretty.
Pretty. Letter of the alphabet. Just any letter.
Q.
All right.
I like that one.
I need a plural occupation. So like the examples like taxi drivers or nurses or something like that. So an occupation that's plural.
Journalists.
Journalists. Okay.
Yep.
Journalists. Okay. An animal. Any animal.
Fox.
Okay. Fox. Day of the week.
Sunday.
Okay. A
The
noise.
day of our Lord.
I need a noise. Like a chirp, crack, thump, something.
Bam.
Bam. All right. Same guy's name again. Dave. Oops. I need a plural noun. This is a long
Cars.
one. Cars.
Yeah, it is.
This is a very long one. Need an adjective.
Crisp.
Crisp. I like that adjective.
Like McDonald's Sprite.
I need a verb plus ed again.
Cooked.
Cooked. A single body part. How do you
Penis.
want to? Yeah, I knew it. I knew.
Gotta
it.
be penis.
Yeah, of course it does. It has to be.
Okay, wait. Let me get taint.
Wow.
Those are our options. Which one? You had to pick one of them.
Let's go taint.
Okay, taint. Oh, this is great.
We're expanding the dictionary here today.
Verb plus ed again.
Wow. Collected.
That's a good one. Transportation. So what, like car or something? Like,
Helicopter.
yes. That is the best form of transportation. Something outside. Just anything outside you can think of. Not an animal, though. Yes, grass works. Plural food. This is so long.
Wings.
Wings. Perfect. Animal again.
Cow.
Okay. Flavor.
This is a book. This is a book, or
This is gonna be a fucking long one. Need a flavor though. Need a flavor.
Let's go barbecue.
Great. Animal again.
Steal a horse.
Horse. Liquid.
Bourbon.
All right. Single food item.
String cheese.
That works. That works. That works. String cheese. Another liquid.
Kool-Aid.
That's great. Kool-Aid. Adjective.
Squishy.
All right, squishy. Color. Any color.
Black.
Okay. Plural clothing, like shoes or shirts.
Socks.
Socks. Single piece of clothing.
Hat.
Another plural clothing.
Jackets.
Jackets. Noun. Plural noun.
Chairs.
This is a Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, this is long. It's gonna be worth it.
Are there publishing rights on this? Or?
There's about to be two different adjectives.
Two different adjectives.
Mm-hmm.
Smelly.
Okay.
And slippery.
Okay.
That's how we like them.
That's right.
Smelly? All right. Noun.
Boat.
Let me try to vote.
Two different body parts. Singular. Penis is available because you traded it out.
Let's do foot and head.
That's gonna end great. You already know. Adjective.
Warm.
Okay. Verb. We're almost there, I promise.
Are you sure?
Yes, we're almost there.
Verb. Thinking.
Thinking.
Yep.
Single body part.
Leg.
Yes or no?
No.
No, okay. Emotion.
Happy.
Greeting. Just a greeting, like, yo, what's up, or something.
Hola.
Hola, okay. Verb.
See, I've used them all, haven't I? At this point,
There's one more verb. I need one more verb.
all right, watching.
And room of the house.
Bathroom.
Bathroom. We are done.
Not
That
bad.
was an extremely long one. I apologize, but I feel like this is going to be worth it. So we're going to play it. So let's see how... Alright, so this, like I said, was called The Awkward Date. Tonight I'm going on a date with Dave from my botany class. He asked me how over 12 times I always farted him away.
As you do.
You're a child. You are a child, Roz. This time, though, I'd run for it. I mean, why not? Who is it painting? Dave is one of those pretty kind guys who get straight Q's in every subject. He's kind of like a He's kind of like a journalist's fox. It was Sunday night when I heard a bam at the door.
It's like the video of Big Bird, like breaking down.
Yeah, that's how I'd imagine it. It was Dave holding a bouquet of flowers. He bowed and said to me, he bowed and then handed one to me. Okay, he bowed and handed one to me and said, "You look crisp, my dear."
I'm
As you-
saying that to a girl. That's
You
not
look-
a lot of things.
You look crisp, my dear. Shall we? I almost cooked from laughter, but held it in the best I could. Oh my god. I took his taint and he collected me to his helicopter.
What?
That's what was written.
Oh my god.
We drove the helicopter. Doesn't say the helicopter, but I had to add it in. To a restaurant that overlooked the grass, as a restaurant does. He ordered wings, cow fingers, barbecue gravy. That sounds disgusting. And a huge horse burger with bourbon. Okay. I just wanted a string cheese with a glass of Kool-Aid. That sounds like a normal night of dinner for somebody.
Sounds like apocalypse food.
It does. I guess he thought I was squishy, but his outfit had me lose my appetite. Black plaid socks with a button-down hat, tucked in and oversized jackets on. So multiple oversized jackets. After dinner, he flew me home in his helicopter. We talked about why chairs are so smelly, which was slippery, and then he walked me to my boat. He kissed me on the foot out of all places.
Oh, yuck. Yuck. Oh, I'm cringing so hard. We talked about this the last time we did Mad Libs too. I just can't fucking do it.
And then he scratched his head and said, I had a warm time. Let's thinking again sometime. I nodded my leg and no. Then quickly went inside. I felt happy seeing him again in school, but we usually just say hola when we watching each other when we watching each other in the school bathroom. Dave, that was masterful. I told you that one was going to be worth it. That was great. Personally, I took his taint and he collected me into his helicopter. Is a great sentence.
I'm pretty sure that's straight out of 50 Shades of Grey.
It might be. It might be. So, Roz, it is now your turn to do advice from Dad. So, I need me an adjective to start.
Well, if I'm the father and I need an adjective for my child,
Just give me a fucking adjective, Roz.
Let's go with stupid.
Stupid. That works. Number. Need a number.
69.
Yeah, of course. Fucking.
I was gonna say 10, but that's boring.
Adjective.
Smart.
Okay. I need a size, like a size description.
Large.
Yep. All right.
Oh, BBW was so much better.
No. Man, I don't know if that's a description.
No, it's very descriptive.
All right,
actually.
we're gonna use it.
No, don't use it. Don't use it.
Don't use it. Okay.
Use it. Just use it.
Color. Need a color.
Brown.
Plural body part.
Vaginas.
Are you dead ass? You know this is called advice from Dad, right? I told you that. But that's what you wanted. This is I have to read this, by the way. Emotion. Need an emotion.
Depressed.
Nice.
It's timely.
Adjective.
Tall.
Number. Need another number.
I'll go 10 this time.
10. Verb.
Jump.
Adjective.
Muscular.
Okay. Animal.
A rhinoceros.
I'm gonna put rhino. Adjective again.
Girthy.
That's a great adjective. Transportation, like a truck, airplane, scooter, car.
Moped.
Great. Verb ending in ing.
Thrusting.
You know, I can't stress enough this is called advice from dad.
Oh, God.
Like, I cannot stress this enough that that's what it's called.
I can tell you that in 21 years of being a parent,
I've never
said the word thrust.
Yeah. Family member, like a sister, uncle, something.
Let's go stepsister.
Stepsister. Advice from dad, by the way. Can't stress that enough. Adjective that ends in est.
He said, Nikki, don't stop. You the bestest.
That was really funny.
Bestest isn't a real word, so I'm not going to roll with it. Let's go biggest.
Biggest, okay. Verb. Need a verb.
Suck.
Advice from dad.
It doesn't have to be sexual.
It might end up... Well, the three last things you said were stepsister, biggest, and suck. I don't really know where else this is going to go, Raza.
Listen, man, you need to get your head out of the gutter and back into
Maybe
reality.
I do. You know what? I'll give you that. Maybe I do. All right, yes or no?
No.
Dave went no, so we're actually going to go yes.
Okay, that's fair.
Noun, plural.
Jewel pods.
Millennials, everybody.
Yeah, welcome to the 21st century.
Verb. Need a verb.
Steal.
Steal. Okay. Two adjectives. Different ones.
Okay. How about malicious?
Malicious.
And let's go with seductive.
So I need me a plural noun.
All right, I'll go straws.
Straws. Okay. Love. I need an emotion.
Okay. Joy.
Okay.
To counter the depressed from earlier.
Verb plus er.
A hater.
Hater. Okay. And another emotion.
I'll go sad.
Okay.
To counter the joy.
Balance to the universe. And an adjective that ends in est.
I'll go greatest because
Greatest.
I am the greatest. Like Muhammad Ali. Just
We're gonna
extremely
find out.
self-aware.
Yeah. Great. So here we go. Advice from dad. My dad's advice to me when I was a stupid boy, around 69 years old.
Oh, such a youngin.
Yes. So, son, I want you to know what I really think of you. You are smart. When you were first born, I stared into your... Oh, no. Oh, no. I stared into your large brown vaginas. Thank you, Roz. You... I knew right then that you would make...
so good.
Wait, no, this sentence is great. I knew right then that you would make me more depressed.
That's like what my dad says to me.
Well, Roz.
I'm just kidding. I love you, Dad.
Oh my god. It's a big...
Oh, come on, he doesn't listen.
Well, it's possible.
If he did, then that statement might actually retroactively be true.
It's a big, tall world out there, and there will come a time where I won't be here anymore. You must take life's issues 10 steps at a time. Make sure you jump your homework. Okay. Be muscular to others. Take care of your rhino. Buy a nice girthy moped first before thrusting a brand new one. Obey your stepsister. And handle peer pressure the biggest way possible. Don't suck. Say yes to jewel pods. Say yes to jewel pods. Don't steal and drive.
True millennials.
Find a malicious girl to call your own. Be seductive to her, and son, never give up your straws.
Oddly enough, I've actually had that talk with all three of my boys.
Yeah,
so
never give up your straws ever,
and the jewel pods especially.
Say yes. Don't suck. Say yes to jewel pods. Stay true to yourself and go for what you enjoy.
That should be the tagline. That should be a tagline.
Don't suck and yet say yes to jewel pods.
Yeah, that's a shirt. I'd wear that.
I know you want to become a hater someday. Make me sad. I love you, son, from Dad. Roz, you are
I'm an expert, dude.
Yes,
I'm 2 for 2.
That is hilarious. Don't suck. Say yes. Say yes to jewel pods.
I stared into. I don't even want to repeat that.
I knew right then that you would make me depressed. That is so fucked. I absolutely love the Mad Lib segments. I don't know whose was better. I think you guys are gonna have to vote on that, the listeners. Those were both absolutely hilarious. I can't get over that.
I'm proud of us.
I am proud of what we did here today on the Pro Pod Show. But that was episode 17 of the Pro Pod Show. If you want to follow the Pro Pod Show, you could follow it at Pro Pod Show. You can follow myself at ItsBriz, ITSBRIZZ. You can follow Raza at RazaU_. Dave, thank you so much for coming on. If you want to plug anything, you can go right ahead right here.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I'm D Binkowski, BINKOWSKI on Twitter.
It'll be in the tweet, too.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's fun.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Absolutely, man.
We will see you guys next Wednesday. Peace out.